At dawn, a young woman rides her breathtaking white horse through misty fields. The echo of unseen hooves grows louder, chasing them toward a cliff. She reins in sharply, silence. Fog swallows the horizon. A shadow flickers, vanishes. The screen fades to black as phantom gallops continue, closing in on her. The first sound wasn't the gentle rustle of leaves or the soft breath of my horse. It was the sharp crack of hooves striking earth where no rider should have been. My heart jolted, not from the beauty of dawn but from the intrusion of something unnatural. The mist clung to the fields like a heavy curtain, and for a moment I thought the world itself had shifted. My horse Arion lifted his head, ears flicking nervously, sensing what I could not yet see. I tightened my grip on the reins, whispering to calm him though my own voice trembled. "Easy boy, easy." His muscles quivered beneath me, powerful yet unsettled, as though he carried not just me but the weight of something unseen. The peace I had sought in this ride was shattered. I had come here to escape memories, but the echoes followed me, pounding closer, louder, as if mocking my attempt at solitude. The sound of hooves had haunted me since childhood. I remembered nights when I swore I heard riders in the dark, galloping through the fog outside our home. My brother laughed at me then, cruel in his dismissal. "Ghosts don't ride horses," he sneered. "Only cowards imagine them." His words cut deeper than the fear itself, leaving me ashamed of my own instincts. Yet here I was, grown, hardened, and still hearing those phantom riders. Arion shifted uneasily and I urged him forward, hoping movement would drown the sound. But the echoes grew sharper, chasing us across the misty field. Each strike of invisible hooves seemed to match his pace, as though we were not alone but hunted. My breath quickened and I felt the sting of betrayal rise again, not from the mist but from the memory of my brother. He had stolen more than my confidence. He had taken what was mine, twisting it into his own gain, leaving me with scars that no fog could hide. The cliff loomed ahead, jagged and unforgiving. I hadn't meant to ride this far, but the chase left me no choice. The sound pressed closer, forcing me toward the edge. I pulled hard on the reins, Arion's hooves skidding against damp earth. He reared slightly, his cry piercing the silence, and then, nothing. The phantom gallop stopped. The world fell into a silence so heavy it pressed against my chest. I sat frozen, the reins taut in my hands, staring into the fog that swallowed the horizon. My breath came in shallow bursts, each one visible in the cold air. The silence was worse than the chase. It was the silence of something waiting. I scanned the mist, searching for movement, for proof that I wasn't losing myself to old fears. And then faintly a shadow flickered. Not solid, not clear, but enough to twist my stomach with recognition. It wasn't just any shadow. It carried the shape of betrayal, the outline of what I had lost. My brother's cruelty returned to me in that flicker. The way he had stood over me triumphant when he claimed what was mine. The way he had laughed when I cried out, powerless to stop him. Revenge had been my silent companion ever since, shaping my choices, guiding my steps, whispering in the quiet moments when I thought I had moved on. Arion stamped the ground, restless, sensing my turmoil. I leaned forward, pressing my hand against his neck, grounding myself in his warmth. "You're all I have left," I murmured. He had been my salvation, my escape, the only soul who carried me through the weight of betrayal. Yet even he could not shield me from the shadows that clung to my bloodline. The fog thickened, curling around us like fingers. I thought I saw movement again, a flicker to the left, then gone. My pulse raced and I turned sharply, scanning the emptiness. Nothing. Only silence. But silence can be deceptive. I knew better than to trust it. Memories surged, unbidden. I saw myself as a child, clutching a wooden toy horse my father had carved. My brother had snatched it from me, breaking it in half with a grin. "You're too weak to keep anything," he said. That moment had been small, but it was the seed of everything that followed. He grew into cruelty and I grew into silence. Till now. The cliff's edge was unforgiving, the drop hidden by fog. I felt the danger pressing in, not just from the fall but from the past itself. I couldn't move forward, couldn't retreat. I was trapped between silence and shadow, between fear and determination. My hands trembled, but I refused to let go of the reins. Then a sound, not hooves this time but a whisper. Faint, carried by the mist. My name. I froze, every muscle rigid. It wasn't possible. No one was here. Yet the whisper came again, softer, taunting. My brother's voice. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. You're not here, I whispered back, though the fog seemed to disagree. Arion snorted, tossing his head as if he too heard the voice. The bond between us tightened. He was my anchor, my shield against madness. But the whisper lingered, threading through the silence, reminding me that the past was not gone. I closed my eyes for a moment, steadying myself. The fog pressed closer, the shadow flickered again, and I knew this was no ordinary ride. This was a reckoning. The echoes of hooves, the silence at the cliff, the shadow in the mist. They were all pieces of a truth I had tried to bury. My brother's cruelty had shaped me, but it had not broken me. And now, standing at the edge of the world, I felt the stirrings of something stronger than fear. The mist swirled, and for a heartbeat I thought I saw him, my brother's face, pale and twisted, staring back at me from the fog. I blinked and it was gone. But the impression lingered, heavy, undeniable. The past was not gone. It had followed me here, to the cliff, to the silence, to the shadow. I tightened my grip on the reins, my jaw set. If you're here, I whispered into the mist, then I'm ready. My voice was steady now, stronger than the fear that had chased me. Arion shifted beneath me, steadying himself as if preparing for what was to come. The silence held, the fog pressed in, and the shadow flickered once more. I knew then that this was only the beginning. The mist still clung to me when I returned home, its chill lingering in my bones. I couldn't shake the image of that flickering shadow at the cliff, nor the silence that followed. It wasn't just fear, it was recognition. Something in that shape belonged to me, to my family, to the bloodline I had tried so hard to escape. My brother's face haunted me as I pushed open the wooden gate to the yard. The hinges groaned, a sound too familiar, too ordinary, yet it carried the weight of memory. He had destroyed my trust long ago, not with one act but with a lifetime of cruelty. He took what was mine, mocked what I loved, and left me with scars invisible to others but carved deep within me. Arion whinnied softly from the stable, his eyes following me with loyalty that no human had ever given. I stroked his mane, whispering, "You're the only one who never betrayed me." My words trembled, but they were true. In every storm, in every silence, he had been there. My brother had stolen everything else, but he could not take this bond. That night, as I sat by the fire, I heard whispers carried by the wind. At first I thought it was the echo of my own thoughts, but the words were too sharp, too deliberate. They spoke of a curse, one tied to the land we lived on, to the horse I rode, and to the phantom hooves that followed me. My grandmother had once hinted at such things, speaking in hushed tones when she thought no one listened. I had dismissed them as old tales. Now I wasn't so sure. The next morning I walked into the village, hoping for answers. The market was alive with chatter, but one voice cut through the noise. An old woman, bent with age yet sharp-eyed, beckoned me closer. "You've seen it, haven't you?" she asked, her tone heavy with certainty. I froze, unable to deny it. She leaned in, her breath smelling of herbs and smoke. "The shadow is not random. It is tied to betrayal. It is tied to revenge. And it will not leave you until the debt is paid." Her words struck me harder than any blow. I wanted to ask how she knew, but her gaze silenced me. She pressed a small charm into my hand, a carved piece of bone etched with strange markings. "Keep this," she whispered. "It won't stop the shadow, but it will remind you of what binds it." I slipped it into my pocket, feeling its weight as though it carried centuries of secrets. When I returned home, small incidents began to unfold. A vase shattered in the hallway, though no one had touched it. A letter appeared at my door, written in a hand I recognized too well, my brother's. The words were brief, taunting. "You cannot outrun blood." My chest tightened, anger rising like fire. He was near. I could feel it. Days passed, each one marked by signs that someone was watching me. Footsteps in the dirt outside my window, though no visitor came. A lantern swaying in the barn when I knew I hadn't lit it. Arion grew restless, stamping and snorting at shadows I couldn't see. I tried to convince myself it was coincidence, but deep down I knew better. One evening as I sat alone, the sound returned, the phantom gallops, faint but undeniable. I rushed outside, the night air biting against my skin. The fog had rolled in again, thick and suffocating. The hooves echoed, circling the house, faster, louder, until I shouted into the darkness, "Show yourself." Silence followed, heavy and cruel. I stood trembling, clutching the charm the old woman had given me. My brother's voice echoed in my mind, his laughter, his taunts, his betrayal. The gallops weren't just echoes of the past, they were tied to him, to his return. The fog wasn't empty. It hid more than shadows. It hid him. Arion neighed sharply, pulling against his tether, his eyes wide with fear. I ran to him, pressing my forehead against his, whispering, "We'll face this together." His warmth steadied me, but the truth gnawed at my resolve. The curse wasn't just a story. It was real, and it was bound to my bloodline. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every whisper of wind felt like a warning. I lit a candle and sat by the window, watching the fog curl across the fields. My thoughts spiraled back to my brother, to the rivalry that had defined our lives. He had destroyed my trust, but he had also tied me to this fate. The old woman's words echoed. It is tied to betrayal and revenge. I realized then that the phantom gallops were not simply haunting me. They were calling me to confront what had been buried too long. My brother's return was inevitable, and the fog was his shroud. I clenched the letter he had left, my hands shaking. "You cannot outrun blood," he had written. He was right. But I could face it. I could end it. The fog thickened outside, and the gallops began again, distant yet closing in. I stood, candlelight flickering across the walls, and whispered to myself, "This is not just sound. This is blood. This is betrayal. And it will not end until I make it end." The fog pressed against the windows, curling like smoke, and the phantom gallops grew louder. I couldn't stay inside any longer. Clutching the letter in one hand and the reins in the other, I led Arion out into the night. His breath steamed in the cold air, his eyes wide, but he didn't resist. He knew, as I did, that this was the moment we had been driven toward. The sound of hooves circled us, unseen yet undeniable. I mounted quickly, my pulse hammering, and urged him forward. The fields blurred past, swallowed by mist, until the cliff loomed ahead once more. The same place where silence had trapped me before now beckoned with a strange inevitability. I tightened my grip, whispering, "This ends tonight." Arion's hooves struck the ground with fierce rhythm, but the phantom gallops matched us, closing in from every side. My chest tightened, but I refused to falter. The cliff's edge came into view, jagged and merciless, and I pulled hard on the reins. Arion skidded to a halt, his cry piercing the night. The echoes stopped. Silence fell. And then from the fog a figure emerged. At first I thought it was another shadow, another trick of the mist. But as he stepped closer, the outline sharpened, and I saw him, my brother. His face was pale, his eyes hollow yet burning with something I recognized too well: triumph. He smiled faintly, as if he had been waiting for me all along. "You came," he said, his voice cutting through the silence. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "You left me no choice." He tilted his head, studying me. "Always dramatic. You could have stayed away. But you wanted this." I clenched the reins, anger rising. "You stole everything from me. My trust, my peace, even my place in this family. And now you haunt me with these shadows." He laughed softly, though there was no warmth in it. "The shadows aren't mine. They're yours. They follow you because you carry them." His words struck deep, but I refused to let them break me. "No. They follow because of you. Because of what you did." The fog swirled around us, thickening as though listening. Arion stamped the ground, restless, sensing the tension. My brother stepped closer, his boots crunching against the damp earth. "You always blamed me," he said. "But you never saw the truth. Father favored you. Mother protected you. I was left with nothing. So I took what I could." I shook my head, fury burning. "You didn't take because you had nothing. You took because you wanted to see me suffer." His smile faded, replaced by something darker. Maybe. Or maybe suffering was the only way to balance what was already broken. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken words. I felt the weight of years pressing down, the betrayal, the rivalry, the endless cycle of cruelty. My hands trembled, but I steadied them, refusing to show weakness. "You came back," I said quietly. "Why?" His gaze flickered, uncertain for the first time. "Because the curse doesn't end until one of us does." The words hung in the air, chilling me. The old woman's warning echoed in my mind. It is tied to betrayal and revenge. My brother's return wasn't just coincidence. It was destiny. Arion snorted, pulling against the reins as if urging me to act. I looked at my brother, his face half hidden by fog, and felt the weight of choice pressing down. You think this is about curses, I said, my voice steady now. But it's about us. About what you did. And tonight it ends. He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. Then end it. The fog swirled violently, the phantom gallops rising again, circling us like a storm. My heart pounded, but I held my ground. Arion reared slightly, his cry echoing against the cliff. The sound of hooves grew deafening, as though the land itself demanded resolution. I dismounted, my boots sinking into the damp earth. My brother watched, his expression unreadable. I walked toward him, each step heavy with years of anger. You broke me once, I said, my voice trembling but strong. But you won't break me again. He smirked faintly. We'll see. The gallops thundered, the fog thickened, and for a moment, I thought the ground itself would give way. My brother reached for me, his hand outstretched, but I stepped back, refusing his touch. This is where it ends, I whispered. The silence returned, sudden and absolute. The fog stilled, the gallops ceased, and the world held its breath. My brother's eyes widened, confusion flickering across his face. Arion stamped the ground, his loyalty grounding me. I felt strength surge through me, not from revenge but from resolve. I had carried this burden too long. You wanted me to suffer, I said. But I choose to live. His face twisted, anger flashing. You can't escape me. I shook my head. I don't need to escape. I need to let go. The fog shifted, the shadow flickered, and my brother's figure wavered. He stepped forward, but his outline blurred, dissolving into mist. His voice echoed faintly, you cannot outrun blood. And then he was gone. The silence held, but it was different now. Lighter. The phantom gallops faded, leaving only the sound of Arion's steady breath. I stood at the cliff's edge, the fog curling away, revealing the horizon. I closed my eyes, tears slipping down my cheeks. The reckoning had come and I had faced it. My brother's shadow no longer held me. The curse was broken, not by revenge but by release. Arion nudged me gently, his warmth steady. I stroked his mane, whispering, we're free. The fog cleared, the dawn breaking, and for the first time in years I felt peace.